What's it, Tuesday? It's Tuesday here at the watch party. Who knows? Who cares, right? Every day is the same when it comes to the madness that we're looking to uncover every day on the stream. So if you guys are new here, this is what you're in for. Also, if you're new here, I'm not usually 15 minutes late. What usually happens, actually, oh my goodness, something's talking to me. There it goes. Jeez. uh Again, like I was saying, 15 minutes late today. It's been a minute, and I feel like I was patting myself on the back a little bit too much at the end of last week or so, something like that. I knew something bad was going to happen when I did that. I knew something bad was going to happen. Anyways, this is what we've got happening today. Everything on the docket as usual, but I just want to give you guys a quick taste because I'm not sure how many of you guys really know this. Um, Technology and technological issues, when they mess up in the year 2026 now, it's so frustrating. I had a power outage for about 5 seconds this morning, which means everything restarted and started again. Then, then as this computer starts back up, it takes a solid 15 minutes because it has just some kind of weird issue in the middle of it all. Also, as things all disconnected and then something saved, it didn't save back again, and then the list happened. Listen, I could go through this whole list of these things, but really, it's only going to annoy me more. So how about we just go get started? Jeez, man. Surprised my water didn't not come out of the faucet or something. Let's go ahead and get started on things that are happening. As you guys saw from the title, that we got some ICE stories as usual. I wanted to make this a standard come to location when you'll find out what's going on, and maybe more specifically, as I find them, more of the resistance that's happening. If you didn't see the stories that I did yesterday, they're up on the page. I think you guys should check those out. There's one particular guy that's talking from the scene in Minnesota that is not mincing words about his feelings. Now, they're aggressive feelings, and there's things that people are afraid of hearing, but I feel like a lot of people feel that way, especially when we see aggressive, insane tactics being taken by members of this Gestapo. And the mask, if you will, even though the masks are actually still on, it's coming off as far as what we're seeing their intentions are, which we already kind of knew, and also what it is that they're trying to accomplish with these tactics, specifically right now up in Minnesota. I'm gonna get to that one in a second, but let's start with what it is that I wished I could have talked about either at the beginning of the week or over the weekend, because Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, the guy that Donald Trump has been fighting with over not lowering Fed rates enough, on his confusing take on how wonderful the economy is versus how the Fed rate should drop interest rates, uh, as somehow we're in the golden age. We've been over it. It doesn't make any sense. But now it's apparently reached a fever pitch. Boy, Donald Trump is upset. So his next plan when it comes to the targeted Fed chair, Jerome Powell, apparently is more aggression and more targeted attacks. Let's start with what Jerome had to say.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure.
Jerome Powell speaking very clearly there, but what is it that he's talking about? He's some of this action being taken forth, and also some testimony that he had in front of Congress where apparently he says he told the truth. But let's find out what it is that he's talking about. He appears to be under some kind of pressure. In case you hadn't heard, here it is.
A stunning escalation in the White House feud with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. The Department of Justice is launching a grand jury investigation. Powell himself announced that the Federal Reserve has been subpoenaed. Today, the White House denied that President Trump sought the probe.
No. As for whether or not Jerome Powell is a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find out.
Powell says the inquiry is about his June testimony before Congress on the renovation of the central bank's Washington headquarters that the president viewed in July, where he slammed cost overruns, pushing the price tag from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion, though not taxpayer money. The president has pounded Powell over interest rates.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. Other than that, what can I tell you?
The DOJ declined comment on what it called ongoing investigations. In a phone call with NBC News, the president said he would not use an investigation to pressure Powell. What should pressure him is the fact that rates are far too high. That's the only pressure he's got.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point. How many times have we seen Donald Trump talking about how he's not going to weaponize his his Justice Department to go after any political enemies, perceived or true? I mean, everyone is his enemy if they don't bow down to him, and those that do bow down to him, they end up getting punished anyway because he sheds them off to the side. When's the last time you heard from Mayor Rudy Giuliani? He's like penniless and insane right now after he gave his entire life to Donald Trump, and he's kind of scudded him off to the side. Like, who cares about that guy? But here's more of this intimidation factors going for now Jerome Powell. I'm gonna get to some of the other targets that he once had, but let's go back to what is that Jerome Powell was saying. So since I gave you guys the background to why he's even talking and speaking out in the first place, here's the back end about why he's standing up to this aggression.
This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people.
Somebody please hand Jerome Powell a glass of water. My man was swallowing hard. Either way, his point there is taken. He's been a part of multiple administrations in this role, and there's a standard basic way that they determine things like interest rates. So Donald Trump is always on his ass over this, so therefore he's on his ass further with this investigation into this change in price. It's pretty stark, and it's pretty similar to all the rest of the times that he's done this. He expects to get yanked around a little bit, be afraid of it, and maybe go his direction. Or, as we're going to get to even further, or maybe that next guy that's coming in might realize that he's supposed to follow Donald Trump's orders, even at this realm too. So let's recap really fast the things that Donald Trump likes to take control over. Of course, the Supreme Court, as he keeps berating and telling them what to do. Our complete judicial system itself. He and Stephen Miller have been talking about how there's these rogue judges that don't rule in their favor. And therefore, if they don't rule in their favor, apparently that's just not true. Anything that they rule is outside of the norms, outside of Donald Trump's norms, outside of this MAGA movement's fascist norms. So now we moved on to Jerome Powell because he wants those interest rates to drop, which has happened for him, obviously, during this last year of his disastrous policies. But again, we've got this criminal in the White House. And as you notice, everyone apparently around him that he doesn't like ends up being the criminal, not him and all of his obviously blatant criminal activity. Here's Caroline Levitt carrying the water for Donald Trump. But she's asked specifically about these movements towards Jerome Powell, and you won't be surprised she brings up criminality.
Question on the independence of the Fed. There are some concerned at this moment based on the new actions by the Feds to open a probe into the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. President Trump has made it very clear how he feels about the Federal Reserve Chair and his actions while chairing the Fed. Can you assure independence of the Federal Reserve, and where will this be going next, this probe?
Well, look, as for the criminal probe, you'll have to ask the Department of Justice about that. They are in charge. I do know one thing is for sure. Jerome Powell has proven he's not very good at his job. As to whether he's a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find. And whether or not they do, I defer that to them.
And no question.
Lots of deferring to the Department of Justice when it's obvious that we know the Department of Justice does everything that Donald Trump wants the Department of Justice to do. But again, as you point out there, it's not up to me whether he's a criminal. I'm just going to say criminal so that people who are agreeing with everything we say will somehow believe he's a criminal based on, again, absolutely nothing. Where's this investigation gone? What have they discovered? What is it that has her even thinking the way the declarative Donald Trump is saying this guy must be a criminal? Or I'm sorry, the Department of Justice says that this guy must be a criminal. Therefore, they're under investigation when we know he's been on his ass based off of those interest rates. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They don't care that it's pretty obvious because they feel like they're just going to, work freely to do all this illegal shit. But by the way, again, the question, even from that Fox News anchor, was, should the Fed operate independently? Did you notice Caroline Leavitt didn't answer that question of whether or not the Fed should operate independently? Because they don't believe that. There was that hint, though. Jerome Powell is very bad at his job. Where does that connect to whether or not the Fed should operate independently? And by the way, your opinion on whether or not he's doing a bad job is strictly based on him disagreeing with Donald Trump, who's never done anything correctly. Here she is again.
Two more questions on the Fed for you. Senator Tillis is promising to hold up all Fed nominees until this legal matter with Jerome Powell is resolved. What does the president make of that?
I haven't spoken to the president about Senator Tillis's comments. I'll leave that to our legislative affairs shop to figure out, and I'll let the president speak on that himself.
Go ahead. That the Fed should operate independently from him.
The president has made it quite clear he thinks Jerome Powell is bad at his job, and the president has made it quite clear, as have many economists, by the way, that interest rates should be lowered, and they should have been lowered a long time ago.
But does he believe in the independence of the Fed, Caroline?
He has, and he said that many times.
Thank you, Caroline.
Jay Powell should go to.
Isn't it weird? You get asked whether or not Donald Trump believes in the independence of the Fed, and that direct answer to that question was pretty obvious. That, again, that same recited line, if you listen to the same liars in office in multiple different occasions and press briefings to talk about the same topic, you'll see them repeat that same line. That's a good indication that they've been sent out that morning and said to recite this line when they're asked this question. That's what she's told to do. So when you're asked if they believe in the independence of the Fed, the answer from this MAGA White House is, well, Jerome Powell is pretty bad at his job. She said it twice. She said it on Fox News, and then she said it in front of cameras when she's standing out in front in the street. So I think it's pretty obvious that she was told one way or another to say things. She doesn't originate her own ideas. Press secretaries go into press briefings, and they literally have this talking point sheets that they flip through as they're giving their speech. And then when someone asks them questions, they recite those same things because they're a spokesperson for the president. So it's not her, it's her reciting the same things that they told her to say. So this is the point from this White House, is that Jerome Powell must be bad at his job. Therefore, independence of the Fed doesn't matter, right? But then she was pressed one more time, and she has to then say, he said it many times. He said it many times. Of course he believes in independence of the Fed. There's lots of things Donald Trump has said that he actually doesn't believe in when his actions completely fly in the face of those things. Here comes the problem. It might be a small problem, but it's still a problem. As we're seeing this all unfold, you'll see the normal libs and the people with TDS talking about how this is just another realm of his fascism. The problem now is you got people like, was it Jim Cramer over on CNBC saying something a little bit different about this action.
I think it's important to point out about criminality. I think that for pretty much since the founding fathers, frankly, we always had this idea that when you go to a grand jury and you bring a criminal charge, then you're going to get a criminal charge. The grand jury will just lay down and do it. And this is a matter like many of the matters that the president talks about. They get them criminalized. So when you get criminalized, it really makes it so that it changes your life rather dramatically. And I think that Powell's amazing to want to fight it and not say, listen, can we have some sort of deal? What is this? Right. Well, I think only a hack would want the job now. I think if you go after the Fed chairman for decorating, for building a project that he obviously has nothing to do with, he's not a general contractor, Carl, what happens is you basically just say, you know what, I'm going to take the Fed chair and I want to do exactly what the president says because that's why I've been appointed. It's not the charter, but I think we deal with administration where when you get in the job, you better go with the program. If you don't go with the program, it's very possible you'll be criminally indicted. And I don't know, whoever wants that job, I think better have a real good law firm because I think that at any given moment, you're going to be told what to do.
These are very damning things that Jim Cramer is saying about this administration. He said it kind of fast, but he did say, he says, only a hack would want this job now. Also, if you take this job, you better have a great attorney nearby, because every time you step halfway out of President Trump's line of attack and what his demands are, you're going to get some kind of investigation placed on you. He's going to sick the Department of Justice on you. It's almost like everything that he said was happening when he was out of office and breaking a bunch of laws and being busted for those laws that he had broken. And he said there's a weaponization of the Justice Department. It's like there's might be this small indication for the past year that everything he does is based off of weaponizing the Department of Justice, specifically because every time that he's gone to weaponize the Department of Justice, it's failed because it doesn't work. He hasn't manipulated the full our full judicial system yet in this country. I mean, he's working on that part. But there goes Jim Cramer talking about it. It seems kind of casual the way he's talking about it, but he said a lot of damning things about it. In other words, this guy's trying to control the Fed. That controls everyone's lives. That controls everyone's money. That controls the perception of how this economy is working, because this economy is sucking. They need to keep putting up these fake veneers about what's happening. And then when we see it, we're supposed to believe them over our wallets. Here's somebody else that usually supports Donald Trump. He's not feeling this either.
Is there evidence that Powell was stealing money or embezzling? Well, what is the case here, in other words? And why is it that the Trump administration, the two people who he seems to be focused on very much at the Federal Reserve, are people who have opposed his agenda? This is bad policy. You should not be targeting people based on specious investigations. If it turns out that it's specious, the president should not be intervening in Federal Reserve policy in this way. All it does is create uncertainty in an economy that is doing quite well by all available reports. Is there evidence that
We'll get to some of those available reports when it comes to how this economy is doing, but that's standard MAGA propaganda. He has to stay within those lines while also questioning, man, this is kind of weird. We can't just be weaponizing and going after Jerome Powell. They have a bit of a, I guess they have some affinity for Jerome Powell. He's not a black woman that they can just go along with everything that Donald Trump claims about their history and their potential breaking of the law, the way he went after other folks. So again, I got a list of folks, and I want you to keep hearing the way that they try and couch their opposition to this incredibly bad attempt, the fifth or sixth bad attempt that they've got, with still trying to hang on to that fealty for Trump.
Is there really a reason for an investigation? Because, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, wait a second. We know President Trump does not like Jay Powell, and we know that he's calling him stupid and that he hasn't cut rates fast enough. So is this political, or did Jay Powell break the law and mislead or lie to the Senate Banking Committee? And you say?
Well, Maria, we'll let the system play through here. I think there's other issues that we should be focused on. I think this is the president throwing out one more, maybe he's even almost trolling here as well. We got bigger issues to go after than this one, though.
Senator Roger Marshall does not know how to get off of his knees. He's just going to start wearing his shoes on his knees because that's where he walks around following behind Donald Trump. It's pretty obvious. But his answer somehow is that this is just Trump trolling. I'm going to let her, the direct question was, what laws do you think Jerome Powell broke? I'm going to let that whole thing play out. He has no thoughts. She says, in your opinion, what do you think? Anybody that follows behind this guy can't think. They're not allowed to think. If they start thinking, then they're going to end up in some kind of, a Justice Department investigation, for thought processes. But so this lackey here, Roger Marshall, all he can come up with is the president must be trolling. That's not disqualifying enough yet. He keeps on trolling with our economy. He keeps on trolling with the Fed. He keeps on trolling with everybody he's sicking the Department of Justice on. If he keeps trolling, maybe someone should troll. How about we troll and impeach Donald Trump? There's this weird trolling that you can do. Impeach his ass, and then just when he gets mad, just say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I was just trolling. I was trolling you. It's all a joke. Since everything he does that's extreme and not normal, like getting his ass out of office, that's just trolling. The full flip is kind of turning, though. I still want you to notice when we're going to go from the rhetoric of these several Republicans you're about to hear from to what is it they're going to, do about it.
The investigation set off alarm bells for some Republicans. North Carolina's Tom Tillis vowed to block any Trump nominees to the Federal Reserve.
Another example of amateur hour, as far as I'm concerned.
House Speaker Johnson backed the DOJ.
No, the Justice Department is not being weaponized.
Secretary Bessent spoke to the president directly about this, and a source familiar with that conversation described the situation as a mess, and that Bessent is, quote, frustrated that a probe of Powell creates unnecessary distraction.
Scott Bessent, even. There's a little bit more from his thoughts to Donald Trump. Scott Bessent, also John Thune. Not John Thune. This one, Tom Tillis is willing to block. Look at that. Looking to block any future nominations that Trump might have to the Fed. As usual, see how that plays out, because we also had Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that they're going to come out hardcore and fierce against this Epstein file situation. Marjorie Taylor Greene is gone. We've also had other Republicans talk about how they're going to stop them at every step and not confirm anyone. That is before they do. Tom Tillis is even on the whole line about doing something about this guy's illegal activities. And Tom Tillis just finds himself back on the wrong side every time. So I'll believe that when I see it. Maybe those are empty threats too. Here's CNN talking about more of these guys. Let me just stack this whole this sheer number of people that are against this in front of your faces as we then watch them do it anyway.
I don't think Jay Powell's a criminal. If we were to do an indictment on everybody that misled Congress in a hearing, we'd have to build a couple of new federal penitentiaries.
I support the independence of the feds, and I hope that this investigation wraps up very, very quickly.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
Another example of amateur hour, as far as I'm concerned.
Toss in Tom Tillis in there one more time. Everyone is outraged and insulted. They have no idea how this could happen. There's something they can all do about it. It's time for action in 2026. We're not waiting for the midterms that, obviously they're looking to halt, as it was already floated. Let's cancel them. So all these guys that are supposed to be doing something about it are doing a few segments of talking. That is before they do absolutely nothing about it. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see where it goes next. I had more quotes from Tom Tillis and John Thune and Lisa Murkowski, even talking about directly how this is an attack on Jerome Powell, specifically because of his work to do the way that they're supposed to do it honestly. If you believe the guy who's pressuring the Fed chair to do things dishonestly, then maybe you can fully commit to knowing that he's a dishonest person, that he's manipulating our system, that he continues to lie, and that you're in this weird position to, do something about it. I'm sick of talking about it. God, like the people that have any way of doing something won't do it. Let's shift gears a little bit. Before that, though, I forgot this yesterday. I think I was just going so long and so many different stories. I didn't get a chance to like the stream. That's something you guys might forget to do every once in a while. Let's go like it together. I just clicked on that thumbs up button. Like it, subscribe it, share it if you like what we're doing. We do it every day at noon. If you're new to the place, the chat is nice. They'll welcome you. Also, these stories will be up later, up on the channel as we get things broken down further. I got a late start. Let's motor on to this next aspect. I have not seen this video until yesterday. It came across my feed, but also it's apparently from the back end of last year. As we're seeing this aggression from ICE agents go around, this stuck out to me. And again, I pointed out earlier, if you guys had seen that interview from Status Quo that was talking to one man in the streets in Minnesota about how he's no longer looking for peace when it comes to people who are not looking for peace, this might be one of those reasons why. This was a video taken by the man here in this particular instance that apparently faced off with multiple ICE agents.
What's up, brother? What's going on? What's up with you? Watch out, man. What y'all on with me? I don't know what they on with me, bro. I got cameras. Y'all tweaking. You got the right to what? Y'all got the right to what? I got cameras.
I thought I saw a glimpse of an Illinois plate, so that may have been in Chicago area. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on it. So I never got it. I was looking up for any kinds of way to look for follow-up to what is that happened there, who that guy was, what particular instance this was. It happens so frequently, it's probably hard to find each and every one of them. Whoever may be pointing these things out, what the results of that was, it was some kind of a detainment in the streets, or if it turned to one of the many people that have been disappeared and we don't really know exactly where they are. Their family doesn't exactly know what kind of connection they have to them. They have no idea which kind of detention center or concentration camp that they've been sent off to. But you see a gang jump out of an SUV strictly based off of looking at someone. I want you to actually put it in the terms of the way that these white supremacists probably put pictures in their followers' heads. A gang of minorities roll up in an SUV, roll down the window, and all get out with guns. What do you think you should do then? You should say, hey, let me talk to this gang of 4 guys who have guns out, and all they're saying is glaring at you and chasing you and surrounding you. Something tells me that many folks would say, you better have your gun on you. I feel like that was, that's always the answer when it comes to these things. If anybody knows what it is that happened there or who that was, please let me know. Maybe I'm missing it. I checked for a little bit and wasn't able to come up with much. But it's another image from the perspective of someone who was targeted directly. So what do? You start kicking people in their nut sacks? You run in the left direction when the first thing they said out of the car was, you better not run. It's because their entire process here is intimidation and then also violence. Did you guys hear this story from this pastor, this minister, I'd say, up in Minnesota? Here's another instance of, the way that they operate.
As I arrived at church yesterday, I noticed that there was something going on just a block and a half from the church. And so I grabbed my whistles because we're used to doing that. And I went down to see what was going on. And I realized it was an ICE raid. And there were many, many protesters. So I joined the protesting. And before I knew it, I saw ICE agents circling a young woman who appeared to be Hispanic. And so I approached her, and we were at that point chanting, "We are not afraid. We are not afraid. Go out of our state. We are not afraid." And I said to this ICE agent, "Take me. Stop harassing her. Take me." The agent came, got in my face, pointed a gun at me, and said, "Are you afraid now?" To which I said, "I am not afraid." The next thing I knew, they were putting handcuffs on me, and they put me in the back of an SUV. They came back 3 times, and they asked me if I was afraid yet. To which I replied, "Hell no, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm never going to be afraid of you." The 3rd time when they came back, they asked for my identification. They asked for my cell phone. I asked them if I was under arrest. They didn't answer. And then they said to me, "Well, you're white. You won't be any fun anyway. You can get out of the car." I was astounded to experience and see such blatant racism and the effects that this is having on our community.
It's a story that many folks have told in the country in similar ways, specifically based on who they are. But that senior pastor at All God's Children Church, Reverend Kenny Callahan, was telling his story of being abducted by these ICE agents for participating in a protest, while they were killing people up in Minnesota. And the whole purpose, as he detailed in his story, was, are you afraid yet? When are you going to be afraid? Oh, well, you're just a white guy. This isn't even fun. And as many people have noticed from the decor in his background on a couple of those couches and chairs behind him, he's apparently LGBTQ plus pastor, or is at least friendly to that community that's also under attack. So let me show you a little bit more of his story as he told MS Now the way this whole thing wrapped up and what else that he experienced when they were going to attack folks, only for the sheer purpose of, are you afraid yet? Oh, well, you're no fun.
There were 2 other agents, and I don't know what they were saying. I was so shocked. There were 2 other persons in the car with me that they released, and I don't know what they were doing to them, but I know that their experiences were the same. It was definitely intimidation at its finest. And they were pepper spraying people yesterday as well and pushing people to the ground. And we were non-violently protesting. We were simply supporting our immigrant siblings and our neighbors that are being attacked by these ICE agents.
So the standard thing, probably from someone who's looking to protect his community, maybe a deep member of his community there, was out trying to protect them. But the purpose is intimidation. The purpose is to go after certain folks that they consider the rest of this country will think, yo, that's a brown or black person. Oh, that person has a weird accent. We don't care about them. They're finally finding their the people that are looking to confront them. But these confrontations, again, not really like the guy that I keep talking about that said he's had enough of this. Many of these confrontations, specifically lately up in Minnesota, involve multiple people, a large number of people that pastor joined a part of, to stand there silently and peacefully. I mean, not necessarily silently, but peacefully with signs up and chanting. And, that does nothing but piss off a bunch of fascists that then step in the street because this is their very next objective. This is something else that isn't surprising. No one's surprised that they didn't want to mess with the white guy anymore, even though they do mess with plenty of white guys. This particular instance, though, this is the sign. This is from the Good Liars. And they documented the process for what these guys are doing when they confront a group of folks that are protesting.
So now a bunch of ICE agents are coming out with pepper balls and spray. I'm not sure why. They just decided they wanted to come escalate the situation here. This is the head of ICE here. All these cowards throwing people down. They just did this for no reason. They came out here and escalated the situation, and now they're going back in. You're saying they're doing this as like to...
They had a film crew come out with them, and then I'm not confident, but I thought I saw Bavino come out, and that might have been why to come in.
It's like all propaganda. They're just filming propaganda.
I mean, this part was...
The Good Lies, they're always on the streets talking to folks. In that particular case, just a straight version of watching how these guys step out with guns drawn, shoving protesters as they confront them for the sheer purpose of then going back in so they can think, just like they told that pastor, are you scared yet? Are you afraid yet? We saw another guy that was confronting a woman that was filming him. And she said, aren't you shamed? And he said, haven't you learned yet? This is the process. This is the standard. This is what they've been told they're supposed to do. Start more fights. Wait for people to start fucking them up. Because as we know, the people in the Golden Towers back in DC, they don't care if they're ICE agents that can't stay on their feet, get their asses whooped. They want that to happen. They're okay with a few of those casualties so they can then say that we can't have any more elections in this country. There's an insurrection against, a MAGA fascist takeover. That's the next step. If we read and pay attention, we would see all that coming down. That's one of the tactics there. Let's come out and shove these folks and see if we can start a fight. And what's the icing on the cake is Greg Bavino's sorry sumbitch ass always shows up when the cameras are out. I was saying it before. He wants the popularity of it. He wants to be the face, the Nazi face behind all of these attacks, specifically the ones where they go to a different city and they announce it. But obviously, again, this goes from the top all the way down to these foot soldiers in the streets. Did you guys see this post by the Department of Homeland Security? It was also a remixed or put together and in collaboration with the White House. Yeah, the White House. So the Department of Homeland Security, of course, is run by Kristi Noem and all the rest of these fascists. And this was their post. It says, we'll have our home again. Join ICE. Oh, there's a picture of like some stealth fighter jet over in the horizon, and then some cowboy in the snow riding through the snow. We'll have our home again. So we'll have our home again. I wonder who the we is, and I also wonder what the home is that they're talking about. Luckily, it wasn't too hard to find the meanings behind what it is that they were talking about. At the Department of Homeland Security's site, their page, they posted that with our money. Don't forget that part. Here's an explanation that I found online somewhere. On Friday, the Department of Homeland Security posted that recruitment meme for ICE. Okay, over 2.2 million times people had viewed it by 9 o'clock that morning. Here's that quote again. We'll have our home again. It's a well-known neo-Nazi anthem. The Toronto Holocaust Museum has documented it as a white nationalist song associated with a neo-Nazi fraternal group known as the Mannerbund. When a federal law enforcement agency adopts language drawn directly from white supremacist culture, it's not a coincidence. It's obviously a signal to the folks that they want to join this movement. We're recruiting white supremacists and white supremacist friendly folks who want to help us go and attack other Americans that aren't for this fascism, this white supremacy. It's weird. All those black folks and brown folks that were talking about how these are white supremacists and maybe we shouldn't trust all of these racists as they have their blatant racist language that they keep spouting off. Maybe we should pay attention to what they'll do once they're in power, which is weaponize their white supremacy with guns, our money, and all of our resources to go do these things. Now this is their recruitment song. I mean, this is what was probably playing over some of those ads. I won't be able to put this back up when I repost this because who knows what copyright issues come with this song. But for the live stream audience, I want you guys to hear a bit of this song. It's a 2.5-minute song. I'm going to play like a minute of it at best. This is the song that they took their rallying cry there for the Department of Homeland Security for. Listen to this. Oh, actually, let me share it first. You get to see the little graphic that's on the YouTube page as well, whoever put this shit up. The Manor Bund song.
When there's nothing left but the fire in my chest and the air that fills my lungs, I'll hold my tears and trade my years for a glimpse at kingdom come. On the other side of misery, there's a world we long to see. The strife we share will take us there to relief and sovereignty. Oh, my God, we'll have a home again. My God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. In our own towns, we're foreigners now. Our names are spat and cursed. The headline smack of another attack, not the last and not the worst. Oh, my fathers, they look down on me. I wonder what they feel to see their noble sons driven down beneath a coward's heel. Oh, by God!
They can shut the fuck up. The Department of Homeland Security, that's their theme song now. Obviously based off of neo-Nazi themes and belief systems. Maybe Caitlin Collins, somebody from a major news organization, since they're always in front of Donald Trump and the rest of these fascists, asked them, or Chrissy know him directly since she runs the Department of Homeland Security. What was the meaning behind the line, "We'll have our home again," and also running the music that's obviously a neo-Nazi rallying cry? Are you looking to recruit racists? Are you looking to recruit more of those young Republicans that were all busted for their secret chats of all their racism that you guys also excused? Let's not forget these dominoes that we keep seeing fall that lead us right to what it is that we're dealing with. But we're supposed to respect them. We're supposed to be afraid of these pieces of shits. We're supposed to be afraid of these losers. The only people that should probably be, afraid of these guys are probably your sons and daughters, because this will be the least surprising report that you will ever see. Apparently, Bloomington police busted they had a bit of a child sex trafficking ring bust. You'll never believe the type of person that was involved in it.
This one shames. This is a tragedy in many respects, but people at the Department of Homeland Security, I know there are great people there that come to work every single day and do their jobs and do it admirably. Unfortunately, Mr. recently married back here is not one of those people. He works for ICE, and he is an auditor for them, a civilian employee. When he was arrested, he said, "I'm ICE boys." Well, unfortunately for him, we locked him up, put him in our jail. He got reappropriated to our jail, and my understanding is he helped send people to send federal authorities. I think he's going to see some federal authorities because I think the feds are going to take this case.
Alexander Stephen Back is the person the police force was talking about that they had snatched up. And did you hear the quote that he said? As he was taken in, this guy who works for ICE said, I'm ICE, boys. In other words, forget about the solicitation for child sex. Forget about that. I'm ICE, boys. You know what we are? We're above the law. We do whatever the hell we want. Did you know that they're covering up the Epstein files and they're making sure that Donald Trump and the rest of his cohorts don't get busted for it? That means we can do it too. Again, right? With completely out in the broad view, as long as you guys have my back. Hey, let's give you details of what happened with Alexander Stephen Back and how he's ICE, boys, and that relieves all issues. Come on. Share. Let's go. This isn't working. Let's do it. There it goes. Alexander Stephen Back is 41 years old. He was arrested in the multi-agency sting dubbed Operation Creep, very appropriate, to Bloomberg police chief Booker Hodges. The men were arrested under suspicion of trying to solicit sex from somebody they believed to be a 17-year-old girl. Officials listed Back as an auditor for Homeland Security investigations and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I'm ICE, boys. Court records were not immediately available for Back. But this Minneapolis affiliate said Tuesday that the men had not yet been charged. I mean, I assume it's going to be happening soon. Again, it goes through the quote where he said, I'm ICE, boys. And a spokesperson for ICE told NBC News on Wednesday that Back was hired in 2022 as an auditor for I-9 forms or employment eligibility verification forms. And again, Back was not a law enforcement officer with the agency, is also what they said. So they placed him on administrative leave. He's not even one of the cowards in the streets that slips on ICE and is potentially going to get his ass whooped as soon as people finally stand up against him. He's one of the guys who sits behind the scenes and pushes papers and makes sure that people's legal issues compile on them illegally. This guy then went and tried to solicit a teenage girl for sex, and he was so confident when he got busted, he was like, I'm ICE, boys. Maybe there'll be some ICE for him in prison. I mean, unless Donald Trump pardons him and says he's a patriot. I just want to keep giving you a full picture of who it is that we're dealing with. Nazis, fascists, pedos. That's why they're protecting the number one pedo in the White House right now. I know it's the top of the hour. Some of you guys are taking off for TDR, but I got started 15 minutes late. Sorry, bro. I only got one more story, though. I actually would have fit it within 1 hour. Sometimes these things happen. You know what the good news is, though, is it's 2026 and you can repost things on the internet. So this last story will also go up on our page. You guys can come check it out a little bit later today. So if you're taking off, just understand Donald Trump has a bad memory. He doesn't remember the time that he promised $2,000 checks. $2,000 checks. Remember that? $2,000 checks for every American because his tariff policy is so wonderful. Someone asked him about that. I've been waiting for someone to ask him about that. The answer is very unsurprising.
You promised $2,000 checks to Americans based off of your tariff revenues.
I did do that. When did I do that?
Well, I mean, you're
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, I did 1776 for the military, right?
When will those Americans get those checks?
Well, I am going to. The tariff money is so substantial that's coming in that I'll be able to do 2,000 sometime, I would say toward the end of the year.
You promised $2,000 checks to.
When did I do that? When did I talk about $2,000 checks? What are you guys talking about? I don't offer $2,000 checks. That's bullshit. Anybody who believes that must be an idiot. If somebody told you that, they were selling some snake oil. Donald Trump doesn't remember apparently the time that he offered $2,000 for every American because the tariff policy is so wonderful. That's fucking up the economy and raising prices on everyone and having people losing their jobs. It's weird because it was so not that long ago. There's this post from this guy named Donald J. Trump over on this stupid ass social media page called Truth Social. It's from November 9th. November 9th, bro. It's like, was it January 12th right now? We're barely 2 months away from it. Maybe the old guy in the White House has bad memory issues and we should, run his ass out. There was another guy who was just in office and he was an old guy. He had memory issues too. His name was Joe Biden. And I heard a lot of issues with it. Anyways, this is what he didn't remember when he said it. This is what Donald Trump's post said. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are highest ever. We're taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, 37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high income people, will be paid to everyone. So those of you who haven't got your $2,000 check yet, and now it's the beginning of 2026, and Donald Trump, after being reminded that he promised $2,000 checks of our money, when he said you're gonna get it maybe the back end of this year, I get this like this particular feeling that that's a lie. Considering the first part of the question and the answer was, when did I say that? You crazy? What's the matter with you? Man, please, somebody lying to you. Which reminded me of another instance. This is from February of 2025, a little further back. I get the feeling Donald Trump probably doesn't remember this promise either.
President Trump says some of the money apparently saved by the Department of Government Efficiency's cost-cutting efforts could be given back to Americans as stimulus checks. Last week, Trump said the administration is considering giving 20% of DOJ savings to citizens. Now, we should also note a recent review by CBS News of what DOJ called a wall of receipts found that the initial accounting was overstated by billions of dollars.
Do you realize that we're supposed to forget how incompetent and how many lies were tossed in our faces over the DOJ savings, the fraud, waste, and abuse? When is the last time you heard that phrase, by the way? It was overused consistently as they're implementing these policies and destroying our government and stripping people of their positions and dismantling agencies. Fraud, waste, and abuse, fraud, waste, and abuse. And the way to get your ass on board was to say, we're going to give $5,000 to every American because of all of that fraud, waste, and abuse that we've saved on. That is, until those times that we saw right in the middle of this whole fraud, waste, and abuse, all those numbers were inflated. Many of them were fake. Things that they said they had saved on had been saved on years ago, and they had none of those savings. What they had was stripping people of their jobs and putting in lackeys and other folks like that. So, okay, let's recap. I love recapping. $2,000 payment to every American, unless you're a high income earner. So I guess all you guys are millionaires. So $2,000 payment, bullshit. He didn't know anything about it. $5,000 payment because of the DOJ. That was supposed to start, back in February of last year. I guess maybe all these military folks should be on edge.
Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military. And I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way,
2,000, 5,000, 1,776. But you guys, maybe some of you all aren't military affiliated. JR, how would you know whether or not those folks in the military got their $1,776 checks, that overwhelming large number that they were supposed to be given? Where would they be getting that from again? Is it because of tariffs, or is it because of DOJ, or is it because of tariffs again, or is it because of tariffs, or is it because of DOJ, or is it because Donald Trump says he has all this money that he's gotten out of thin air that he's gracious enough to give back to military so they can carry out some illegal orders? Luckily, again, because things are, put on camera. There was this one time when Jessica Tarloff was talking on the 5 on Fox News. She's the resident lib there that, gives them facts. She blew up that spot too.
I'm interested, though, in Jessica and what you just said, because that was news to me. Okay, so Defense One, I think, was the first to report it. This reporter, Thomas Novelli, I don't know. Donald Trump's 1776 checks for more than 1 million troops announced Wednesday comes from congressionally allocated reconciliation funds intended to subsidize housing allowances for service members, a senior administration official confirmed.
So it's not from tariffs. Well, that kind of sucks.
So we're not taking the
You're
money.
taking the money from their housing and you're giving it
So we're
to them.
stealing the money from troops and then giving it back to troops.
It's just that if you are
That's what
going to
you're
do,
It's not a bonus. It's money they were already getting.
That's why you don't argue and discuss with people who have no intention of looking into what is that they've been believing and recalibrating based off of evidence and facts. They were interested in the whole thing about how he's taking their money and claiming he's going to give it to them. You know what I think is happening? He still took their money from housing, whatever is that Jessica Tarloff pointed out, and is still not giving them $1,776 checks, and he's just keeping that money too. Who would do something like that? It reminded me of this moment from the middle of the pandemic. It was August of 2020. After it was solid that Donald Trump was screwing everything up and had no idea what he was doing because he was worried about himself. This was a question that pops up in my head, and I don't know why we don't revisit it more. This one particular, I guess, some people would call it brave reporter, asked the most clear, concise, and very accurate question.
You regretted all the lying you've done to the American people. On
All the
everything.
what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done. Tens of
Yeah, go
thousands.
ahead, please.
Do you regret all that lying? Just ignored and moved on. That's the answer. The answer is hell no. A regret. This is working for me. I lie. They believe it. I get more power. I take more of your money. And then we recycle this every other month. And then I offer you $2,000 checks, $5,000 checks, $1,776 checks. And then when you guys ask me about it again, I go, what? Say what? Maybe he's trying to hide too much of the reality that we're seeing in front of us. Did you guys hear about how that economy, that tariff riddled economy is going?
We came in lighter than expected, Maria, on non-farm. We came in at 50,000. The street was looking for 60,000. That was the estimate. As you can see, futures ticking up. The rate coming in a little bit lower. 4.4%. We were looking for 4.5%. Private sector payrolls coming in much weaker than expected, 37,000. The estimate there was for 64,000. So as far as labor force participation rate, that was at 62.4%. The average work week actually went just a tick down 0.1% to 34.2 hours. That's a little bit lighter than expected. Government payrolls, 13,000. Remember, folks, we don't get an estimate for that, but government payrolls, 13,000.
December was yet another bad month with job growth. Only 50,000 added. We saw the numbers also way back when it comes to August, September, October. All those numbers sucked. And every time we saw those numbers after they fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they were given all these cheap numbers that were trying to make Donald Trump look bad, we continued on with Donald Trump looking bad. But this is how normalcy works. We've now considered and seen 50,000 jobs as growth somehow. And just because Donald Trump did it, it's okay. Yo, we suck because of his policies, but it's okay. Let's look at the whole year. 2025 was the worst year for job growth outside of a recession. That is since 2003. You can probably see the big stark number down in 2020 when that happened. But also now we're at 2025, 5 years later. That yellow little square at the back end is the worst it's been since that other very small yellow block back in 2003. But we're supposed to accept that. We're supposed to accept his promise of $2,000 checks that he forgot all about while the economy continues to crumble. Do you know how they try and pass this off? There was a moment on Fox Business where they shared the horrible job numbers, and then afterwards, the very next thing that they have to do is try and figure out, how do we spin this? How do we make this work? Let's go to this really big liar. His name is Stephen Moore. Maybe you can figure out how to spin this, Stephen.
All right, look, the jobs numbers are weaker than expected, Steve Moore, but the market is focused on what it will mean for the Federal Reserve and whether or not the Fed is going to actually cut interest rates further. If we had a report that was much better than expected, even though that would be good news, the market may have traded down because of what it means for the Fed. Your analysis, Steve.
Well, possibly. But I think the big story here is, look, you were asking earlier about 5% growth. My God, we just got a report from the Fed Atlanta bank that says we grew at 5.3% in the fourth quarter. This is an absolutely booming economy right now. Now, the question is, why aren't we creating more jobs? I think the answer is very simple. We have a severe labor shortage in America. We have more jobs available than the qualified skilled workers to fill them. You just ask people who run factories, run stores, run technology centers, they will tell you that they're having a hard time finding the workers to fill these jobs. But my gosh, we have an economy that is so hot right now, and look, the last 3 quarters we had 3.8%, 4.3%. Now it looks like 5.3%. These are very strong numbers, and I expect as we see oil prices continue to fall, this is just a beautiful picture. Now, yeah, I'm disappointed at this job number. We'd like to see it higher. We got to get more people in the workforce.
Have you heard that story before? No, listen. The reason why we have so many jobs available, but the problem is too many Americans can't even they can't qualify for them. Nobody's taking these jobs. Ask small businesses, ask manufacturing. They're trying to hire people, and people are just sitting on their ass. They have no education. They have no skill level. So we've just got a workforce that sucks, that was fired from all these jobs before, that lost their jobs when businesses failed. As more and more of these businesses fail based off of this guy's bad economic policies, it always comes back to the American people's fault. Have you noticed that yet? You guys suck at this, even though we're in complete and utter control. It must be the American people's fault that, again, this year we lost 68,000 manufacturing jobs. That is in direct results of Donald Trump's tariffs. Those same manufacturing jobs that I keep hearing people like Howard Nuttlick and Kevin Hassett and all these guys talk about, Scott Bessent, talk about how things are going to be booming. Just give us 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, a year and a half, to the end of this guy's term until something finally happens differently. In the meantime, just, die or something. Maybe you're just not supposed to really, get anywhere outside of that. There's multiple prongs of this fascist takeover. There's, of course, the violence in the streets. There's the taking of people's human rights. There's international conflicts, but there's definitely taking your money was first and foremost. The very first thing they did was put Elon Musk in charge to kick people out of the government, siphon more money from programs that actually assist people's lives that we pay for. That is then until the middle of the summer when they passed the BBB that's destroying more people's lives, that they also don't talk about the effects that it's having as they strip more and more programs from childcare to now healthcare. When is the last time you heard about the healthcare discussion? These folks had to force an extension of the ACA because this Republican Party was going to do nothing. The level of destruction in your life, in your wallet, and in your health is all that they're focused on. And as we ask the questions, last bit here, as the questions are asked, and reality keeps hitting us in the face, Donald Trump, with this sorry sumbitch ass, was sitting there leaned over in this meeting and was asked specifically about those job numbers. Watch.
On the economic report that came out today, Mr. President, one, can you respond to that? And two,
it was an amazing report. The most amazing thing is government jobs are way down, and yet the employment numbers are very good. We've gotten rid of tremendous numbers of federal government jobs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Yeah. And yet the employment numbers are very good. They're really getting better. But now we have all those people to work in the private sector for a lot more money. I think that's one of the very big things. The other thing is at 5.4%. And remember, this is after we had a shutdown. And that shutdown had an impact because the concept of the shutdown, even though it's before, people knew we were going to be shutting down. A lot of bad things happened. And by the way, on January 30th, you may have another shutdown. We'll see what happens. But I think the numbers, Caitlin, were really amazing.
First off, can you respond to the manufacturing
Let's
number?
give CNN a chance. You know, they've been fighting so hard to get back into the mainstream.
Mr. President, you posted some numbers actually on Truth Social last night. People saying you posted the job data early when you're not supposed to obviously share it till the next morning. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I don't know. If they posted them, I said post them whenever you get a chance. I don't know. They gave me some numbers. When people give me things, I post them. But the numbers are amazing.
Are the numbers amazing for you? He keeps telling you that your numbers are amazing. They're not amazing. He just says it. Last question. How long are we going to keep believing this? Or even as nobody even believes him anymore. We just accept it. Oh, Donald Trump's lying again. I guess he's destroying more people's lives. Let's move on to the next day. Why don't we do something about that? Besides wait for November of 2026. What happened from January of 25 to November of 25? How much destruction was in his wake? Imagine what more he's doing, especially as blood is now spilling in the streets. I just want you to think about that thought of let's wait until 2026 and how absolutely insane that plan is. Let's go. Only 15 minutes past. It was exactly an hour, you guys. See, don't question. I know what I'm doing. The technology doesn't always know what it's doing, but I do. Just play. Good to see you guys. Glad you guys showed up, all that hung around. Let the folks know that we went through a couple more lies on Donald Trump's economy, specifically on those 5,000 or $1776 checks that he all went through. Maybe they'll come around and check it out. Don't forget, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. Till John, I say hey. I mean, if he's back today, I wasn't sure. It was me and Yasmin Khan yesterday. Maybe John took an extended vacation. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see you guys later. Happy Tuesday. We'll catch you tomorrow. See you, man.